I'm Evan Bishop, teaching artist, and welcome to ArtsWestchester's virtual arts workshop. Today we will learn how to write graffiti lettering in 5 simple steps. We're going to build a letter, we're going to add extensions, we're going to use some funky arrows, we're going to add some 3D and shadows, and we'll add some additional effects to give it some pop and wow. Step number 1 is to build a letter. I recommend that you use a pencil so you can erase what you don't need later. And what we're going to do is create simple lettering. Here we go. We got the A, we have a B, and we have a C. So pencils are done for now. The next thing we want to do is we want to give each letter some body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some extra effects to it. So I'm going to give it some thickness by just tracing around the letter. Okay, I'm using that basic letter to guide me, and now I'm going to add some body to it for each letter, and each letter will go through the same process of being built. Okay, these are simple lettering, but when it's all said and done, it will be jazzed up with some graffiti effects. After we built the letter, first we did the pencil, then we gave it some body around it, give it some thickness. The key thing with that is equal spacing. You don't want to make one section thin and then one section thick. The eye doesn't really register that as an official letter. Okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add extensions, and this is where style comes in. So I'm just going to add some cool extensions. So at the top I might add a little, and I'm using different colors so you can see the process. Okay, so I'm adding what I call feet to it. Okay, so that's the A. I might even add an extension here. Now the B, I'm going to bring it out here. I'll bring it out here too. And finally here. So you just decide what works for the lettering that you're working with. Understanding that these extensions can connect letters together and they can give them some cool effects. On the C, I'm going to bring it down. Okay, so maybe I'll bring this one up. Okay, so we'll do a little effects like that. And I'll add some extensions, some little doodads. Okay, these are just little sections that may have broken off in the lettering style to give it more of an effect. And we'll see how it all comes together. That's how you add extensions and connectors to your style. Now, the next step is we're going to be creating arrows. And in order to create arrows, you have to practice it. I've been practicing for a couple of decades, so I'm just going to go with it. If you look at the arrow, think of a triangle and a rectangle coming together. Okay, so I'm just going to add some arrows. Here, once again, I'm using the different colors so you can see the different stages. Okay, so this arrow is pointing over here. I'm going to make this arrow. Now this one I'm going to extend out. Okay, so it's coming out and it's pointing down. The cool thing with arrows is it forces the eye to look at where things are moving or the illusion of them moving. I'll add another arrow here. Okay, once again, triangle, rectangles, or squares. Okay, now C, I'm going to put an arrow actually through the letter C. Okay, and then I'm just going to give it a little extra piece. And let's see, maybe I'll put another arrow here so that the eye travels with the C. Okay, let's see, any others? I think I'll add an arrow. No, we're good. Keep it simple. Practice, practice, practice makes progress. So that's adding arrows. So we have the body of the lettering, we have the connectors and extensions, and now we have the arrows. So what I did is I decided to put the black outline to distinguish where I want everything to connect, okay? So as you can see, some of the orange area I ignore. I outlined the arrows and made sure each part of the lettering is considered one piece, not these different sections or colors that I started off with. The next thing I would like to show you are shadows and 3D. First, I'm going to start off with the shadow, okay? when you're doing a shadow, you have to consider the light source, okay? And the light source, your shadow is always going to be on the opposite side of the light source. So if my light source is this bright, shiny object here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop shadows on the opposite side of that, as if this arrow is sitting a little bit off the paper, and each section, as I said, you always want to consider the furthest most section away from the light source. So this would be furthest away at the top of the A. Okay, it would be this side. And if you're not sure, you can always cut out a piece of paper or cut out a shape or a letter and just hold it up against a light and a surface. And you will see, if you hold it up just a little bit above the surface, you will see exactly where the shadow is cast. So I'm always using a light source that will help me to create the shadow effect that I want. Okay, so this letter A has the shadow effect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this up and take pride in my work and represent it. And that is the drop shadow. The next 3D effect that I want to introduce to you is what I call the individual shadow, giving this letter depth. Okay, so the way we do it is we see the height and we see the width, but there's also a depth to it. And this is something I've used this so many times, so I'm just going to drop it down. So each point or each corner of the letter, we're going to be using a drop. We're just going to drop it down to a certain height. Okay, seems like I got everything there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the curve of this B. So I'm going to follow the curve. I'm going to follow the shape of this little doodad. Maybe bring it out there. I'm going to follow the shape of this arrow because I'm just using this. I want this to be parallel. I guess that's the best word. You want your shadows to run parallel to the side or the object that it is in. Okay, so if I add some black to it, okay, now it gives it an effect as if it's a solid object. And there we go. Okay, you can add color to it. Anytime you're using shadow effects outside of a black shadow, you always want to have a good contrast between the actual letter and the shadow. So if I used, let's say I use pink in the lettering, I may want to use a blue or a green or something that gives it a good contrast. So when people see it at a distance, they can tell that one part is shadow, one part is actually the letter. And the final shadow effect that I want to introduce to you, or 3D effect, it's not a shadow, it's a 3D, is what I call the 1-point perspective. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to make a dot right here. Now you may want to use a straight edge or a ruler to make sure everything connects. What I'm going to do is every portion of this letter, I'm going to connect it to this dot. Okay, and that's going to give it, it's almost like it's jumping out. Once again, I would recommend using a straight edge. That's what happens, but it's all right. Practice makes progress. So I'm pointing all of them to that dot. So all of the shadow effects will be going right to that dot. Okay, so once again, when I wish I had a straight edge. It's a straight edge. Okay, so I'm just going to use a straight edge just to make sure it looks a little cleaner than freehanding. Okay, and everything should go as close to that dot as possible. And what it does is it makes it look like it's coming out of its own vortex and popping out and jumping out at you. So I'm just going to clean it. Okay, and these are different things that will give you a wow effect. So it's not just the lettering, it's all the things coming together, the shadowing, the arrows, the doodads, the connection. So here we have the actual drop shadow effect. This is what I call a depth shadow, or depth 3D, 3D with depth. And this is the 1-point style also. So these are the 3 different types of effects. Next, I'll be showing you how to really make it the final cool effects. And finally, the last effect or last part of this graffiti style is to have a background. You don't want to just do something so cool and funky and have a blank background. That's not appealing. What you want to do is make that the whole piece jump out at you. So the first thing, a good background or effect is the cloud. What the cloud does is it gives it effect, it gives it a mood. So you just find out, it doesn't have to go all the way around all the parts, but you want to make sure your cloud is fluffy, like a cumulus cloud. So that's the first effect, clouds. You can color it in, always making sure that there's a good contrast between the letter and the background. The next effect, which I love with the arrows, are the stars. Now some people draw stars like that. You can do that as long as you're able to fill it in so people don't see the lines, okay? I've been doing this for a minute, so I'm just gonna freehand it. So you might wanna put an arrow here, put a piece of an arrow here, maybe have one sticking out here. And you wanna spread them out. You know, you don't have to show the whole star, but stars will definitely make it seem like your artwork is exclusive and high powered. Okay, so once again, spread them out, give them enough space to breathe by themselves, but show that they are part of the piece. They can touch if they need to. But a whole bunch of stars really does a good thing for your for your final product. And finally, the last of the background effects is the blast. Okay, so that's just creating nice, jagged edges, gives it some attitude, and you can decide what is best in that way, choosing the best type of effect and always giving it different color contrasts. Okay, so we have the different effects going on, and this is your tutorial. Let's just make sure we check off the list. In conclusion, we built the letter using a straight letter and then adding some body to it. We added extensions and connectors. We used some funky arrows in different places, movement showing up, down, and all around. We did some 3D and shadows, and we did some additional effects, clouds, stars, and blast. So I thank you. If you like this video, please make sure to visit ArtsWestchester at artsw.org. Thank you, and have a great day. Keep creating.